Live from the 607 is the ODPH Entertainment Edition, where we're talking movies, comics, TV, and more. Why don't you join in the conversation? Hashtag ODPH, because here we go. And welcome to a special edition of the ODPH Entertainment Edition. I am your host, Ken M. Sitting across from me this week, holding down the soundboard, is the intern himself, Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Joining us, as always, is the comics blog head writer himself, the Bright Guy Signal.
Sup, boys?
So now we have to explain why this is such a special episode. Backstory on this. Last year, Pad, Brian, myself went down to New York Comic Con. Shout out to Repop and everybody involved with that. And
it was amazing.
Yeah, and we won tickets for a panel called Batman Ninja. Now, at the time, none of us knew what to expect from this. This was kind of a very, bland idea, I guess, for a panel.
I'd never even heard of the darn thing.
Yeah.
I looked it up after we won passes for it, and I texted all of them, and I was like, oh, it's a Batman anime. Okay.
Yeah, which hearing that idea was kind of crazy because I've never heard of DC, let alone one of the Trinity characters, getting involved in Japanese anime. So we were very intrigued. All three of us went to the panel and was absolutely blown away. We actually did our first and only Facebook Live right when we got out of the panel. That's how hyped up we were after seeing footage from this. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later in the show. But with an episode so big and the idea of Japanese anime hitting DC Comics and mainstream American comics, we just had to bring in some extra help to kind of break this down. So our first guest, he didn't want an intro in any way, shape, or form. So no, I will not talk about his YouTube channel, Retro Matt, which has over 1 million views. I will not talk about his Snapchat, which has one of the flyest soundtracks of all the 607 as he's driving around taking sights and sounds in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just Matt Ocean.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us on the panel, Matt. And our other panelist, back by popular demand. If your festival this summer does not have rye bread playing at it, get your money back and demand they sign the band to come on the show. Because if you don't have rye bread, you're missing out. Ladies and gentlemen, returning to the ODPH, the one and only Paff Daddy himself.
What is up, everybody?
Mike Paffy is back at the ODPH.
And
Mike,
amped up.
Oh my
what
gosh.
is going on?
Not much. How are you guys? Thank you so much for having me on. This is awesome.
Mike, thank you for coming back. Matt, thank you for joining us. Hashtag ODPHEE if you're joining in the conversation on social media. So I'm going to pass it around to the panel because I myself am not too familiar with anime, but I know that Matt and Mike and Bri and Pad are super, super, super anime fans. So let me start with Pad first. What is anime and manga? What is the difference? What is the importance of it?
Well, I mean, the importance of it is, I feel it has a rich tradition with Japanese history and culture. The Japanese culture is very steeped in it. It draws, what you see and what you read draws a lot from, their history and their culture. And it's just another form of entertainment that I enjoy.
Yeah, kind of what he was saying with the whole Japanese culture, which is just super interesting. And also, I feel like they teach you life lessons. As corny as it sounds, and as corny as most of the anime are, they really do have some really deep meaning if you really sit down and take the time to actually watch every episode of anime.
Going off of what you say there, Mike, about life lessons is, in anime typically, and just manga in general, the Japanese tend to push their characters to more limits than, say, like our comics will. Like, we have a few scenarios where a hero is pushed to the limits, like Batman and the Killing Joke, and everyone's like, oh, that's so dark. Mangas and animes aren't afraid to just go dark regularly. Like
every 5 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So for me, I mean, anime has been a big part of my childhood. I've always been fascinated with Japanese culture. And yeah, like they all said too, like a lot of life lessons and parodies about what's going on, like in current events and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, anime, like I was just starting to get into more recently. I mean, it's always been something as I've grown up, I've watched the old school Voltron.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Netflix one, which I will say The Netflix one is great, but the old school one with Sven as the Blue Lion and then what happens with him, that's how far I'm going back with it.
I'm younger than you are, but I do have faint memories of it being on a Cartoon Network on afternoons when I got home from school.
Is that Toonami? Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old Toonami.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
Tom
the one,
and Toonami.
and that's the one thing thrown into it that it was kind of interesting because, like, for me, that was my first exposure to anime. And I mean, and the difference is anime is more the animation side, manga is more the comic, the paper back side of it.
Traditionally, it's like, okay, you look at the Marvel movies, how they're adaptations of the comics. Mangas are the source material that is what the anime is adapted off of.
Yeah, and I think that it's kind of neat to see because, I mean, for me, that was my first real exposure. And then even you say Transformers originally started as anime. And, you know, growing up with that, I mean, both of those are two childhood staples of mine that as I got older, I kind of started getting more involved and more appreciative towards it. And just the storytelling aspect, too, is so different than your traditional American comics.
Right, and even with, like, cartoons in America, like anime, sure, it's cartoons, but at the same time, it goes on a whole new, deeper level of cartoons. Like, they create all sorts of systems that I couldn't even imagine thinking of in my head, and they just make them come alive through cartoons, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I think that that's just a certain aspect of it that is just really, you know, part of that style.
Right.
That you don't see that anywhere else. And I think a lot more, too, their characters are not good guys or bad guys. There's more shades of gray and they're more complex that I think really shows the storytelling aspect of it.
Right, it's all about character development instead of just, like, flat out.
Yeah, flat out good guy versus bad guy. I mean, you just can go on the lineage of the various different forms of anime. And sometimes, like Mike was saying earlier, there is some kind of corny elements involved that, we find, be extremely funny.
Oh, love
Oh,
it.
yeah.
That's the best part.
I was going to say, like, that's one of the fun parts. And then as we're going off the animation, the corny parts are usually animated in such a goofy way that you just can't help yourself from laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, you want to jump in on this?
I was just going to say, it's a lot different. A lot of cartoons growing up, it was, like a mouse gets hit on the head with an anvil and it's funny and that's it. But with the anime, there's character arcs and there's, so much emotion and all that. So it's not just...
It's very deliberate. It's sometimes drawn out. You'll have two characters facing off against each other where they're standing there and nothing's being said, but nothing needs to be said.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they just take another 5 minutes charging up all their superpowers. And
Yeah.
Good old Dragon Ball Z.
Well, so yeah, if there's anything anybody knows about anime, it's that regular time does not apply to anime. 5 minutes in real time is like 3 weeks in anime time.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that stuck out with me for anime is how they build up the tension in the action scenes. Mm-hmm. That it just is completely just mesmerizing to watch because you as a viewer are sitting there watching and going like, holy, this is really going to happen and this is going to be so impactful and how is the character going to survive or handle it? And it just amplifies the action much more, but I think it also adds to the drama as well, which I think is just a very unique storytelling aspect.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So that being said, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back because we got to start breaking down our favorite animes. You're listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for another segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition with Matt Ocean and Mike Pathy from Rye Bread in the house, talking Japanese anime, Batman, Ninja, and all things in between. So as we said last segment, we kind of broke down what anime represents to us, but I'm going to pass it around to the panel. Expect this to be very loud, very, very informative, but what is your favorite anime, starting with Pat?
I'd have to go with two because for me it's hard to, put one above the other. First one I have to say is Dragon Ball Z, just because that was the one that really got me into it growing up, and that was the one that when I was growing up, it was the thing to talk about at school. Mm-hmm. You'd come home from school, the new episode would be on, and it wasn't in a traditional cartoon sense where you'd find out things quickly. It was very drawn out. And then the other issue of it was at the time it was being released on TV over here in the States, it was still being dubbed over. So you'd get to the end of a story arc, and all right, what's going to happen next week? Only for the whole thing to start over from episode 1. So it was the most infuriating and yet, anxious thing in the world, because all right, they just beat this threat and this menace. Now we got to wait how long for the next episode, next arc? It was just driving me nuts. The other one I'd have to say would be Gundam Wing. It was just mechs, giant robots. As a 9-10-year-old, all sorts into it.
I'm pretty sure every anime fan at some point is going to either seen Gundam or Robotech, and it's like, okay, it's the staple of anime. It's like, yeah, we got the giant robots fighting aliens. It's like, there's nothing to explain about that. That's just awesome.
Yeah, I think it's something that has become a staple with anime. And typical outsiders, I guess, would kind of say, oh, well, that's anime. It's just always big robots. It's big, fight scenes. It's your, over the top, super unrealistic, which I don't think is fair by any means, because if you really delve into it,
there's plenty of anime out there that is just so real and just like so in the moment, where it's not the typical DBZ freaking laser beams and 20-minute episodes of just charging up
and then
raw power
and then with them obliterating the
yeah,
entire
right.
landscape.
It's not that. There's so many out there, and there's so much to watch. There's so much versatility, which is great. That's why I love anime.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much, and there's something for everybody.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
There
I mean,
is.
as I think you'll hear as we go on with the segment too, there's something for every fan out there, whether you like it, I don't want to say comical, but super over the top, I guess would be the kind of way to say it. Like when you say with the DBZ, that you have Goku who's like charging up and destroying mountains, with a simple punch.
He's letting his villain deliberately get stronger and power up to his absolute maximum just for fun, so he can fight him.
It's
It's
over 9,000.
Yeah, it's the most absurd thing. Like multiple times over the course of multiple shows in the Dragon Ball series, he has let a villain, to the detriment and possible threat of the entire planet, if not the universe, get stronger. Also, he can just fight him because he likes it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes to show. I mean, because with Dragon Ball, I mean, that's the whole story about it centers around Goku and just his journey in becoming the ultimate fighter, I guess. So to speak.
It's almost like a version of Superman.
That is very true, because I know that
they've been compared plenty of times, but I mean, they're no Saitama, so it doesn't even matter.
Oh, break that down for us, Mike.
Well, Saitama is based out of One Punch Man, and he is invincible, and he can literally destroy anything in one punch.
That was going more. They're both aliens from another planet whose planet exploded and showed up on Earth.
Just one punch.
There was a meme going around the internet a few weeks ago. It was okay, I'm gonna end the debate of who would win between Goku and Superman.
Saitama.
And it was Rogue shows up, steals Saitama's power, punches both Goku and Superman. Discussion done.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And that definitely is. And I know, Matt, you are a super big One Punch fan.
Huge fan, yeah. I like that it's just violent and funny.
It's the satire is great, and just the animation. I would say the animation of One Punch is groundbreaking. Like, it is unbelievable if
I was
you
gonna
watch
say,
it.
stuff that Madhouse puts out is amazing. I mean, all the animation for those shows
Mob
is great.
Psycho, amazing too. But we're on the topic of favorite anime.
Correct.
So, for me, that's a tricky one, but I'd have to go with Samurai Champloo. That was one that I would stay up super late in like elementary school when I wasn't supposed to be up and just watch it all night.
And what's that about?
That is actually about feudal Japan, which is kind of like Batman here. And it's about 3 characters just living day to day in feudal Japan and taking on all these challenges and slowly growing as their journey ends. I don't want to spoil too much because it's so good.
Isn't that another violent one? Like it gets pretty violent.
It's pretty violent.
One?
It's pretty gory right off the bat, but it's nothing. It's no Berserk or anything like that. They do it so well, and it's got this hip hop American feel to it, which is just so well done.
I was gonna say the music in that's fantastic.
Music, Nujabes, Fat John, all of it. It's amazing. It's all inspired by like J Dilla hip hop, which is awesome.
That is amazing. I'm a big fan of those guys.
Oh yeah. And then probably another favorite movie would probably be Spirited Away.
Oh yeah,
just classic.
Yep.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, it's so good.
I know it's like one of those ones people always mention. It's like, hey, you got to see Spirited Away.
Yeah,
it's
Princess Mononoke. All those movies are just fantastic. They really are.
And what's the synopsis of that one?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Basically, this family's on a vacation trip and they stumble upon a old shrine, and the dad wants to check it all out, but the main character, she's kind of scared, and she's like, no, let's just keep going. And they end up finding all this food, and her parents turn into pigs, and she gets teleported into the spirit world, and she gets kind of enslaved there, kind of in a way. She kind of gets tricked to staying there and save her parents. So
Interesting.
it's amazing.
There's a lot of metaphors in that, like a lot of Miyazaki films.
Mhm. Yep.
Like she's like a prostitute, and her parents lost money gambling and all that. There's a lot of similarities between life and all that stuff.
If I had to compare it, a lot of cinephiles or movie enthusiasts, if you ask them, greatest movie of all time, a lot of times you'll hear Citizen Kane, you'll hear the usuals. That one, when you ask anime fans what's the greatest or top 5 greatest anime movies of all time, Spirited Away. Depending on the person, it will vary what place it's in, but almost always it's in top 5.
Top 5. I mean, obviously Akira's up there.
Yep.
And then also Naruto. I'm a Naruto fan. I'll admit it. I don't care.
I love Naruto
It's amazing.
too.
It is formed who I am today. It is a part of me.
I made the mistake. I forget what I was watching. I watched something on Netflix, an anime. I forget what, because this was years ago, a couple of years ago, and I finished it. And I was trying to find something else to watch. And I was like, I've heard of Naruto. I remember when it was on TV and running through, and I was like, okay, watching through. Not realizing that the version that was on Netflix is the abridged version that cuts out all of the filler. So, and thereby I didn't realize I'd chosen one of the longest running animes in history to watch. Because I looked up how many episodes are in between Naruto and then the follow-up series Shippuden.
Right.
Then I'm like, oh, I chose one of the longest running animes to watch. Oh, boy.
And then you got all the movies as well that go with the show. And the manga, I think I have the number right. The manga has 72 volumes.
Yeah,
it's massive.
It's long.
It's no One Piece, but it is up there on one of the longest.
I just laughed because I was enjoying it. I'm going through it. I'm like, okay, cool. And I was just curious one day. I'm like, how many episodes are? Oh, whoops.
Isn't there a new series with his kid too?
Yeah,
Boruto. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'll get to it eventually. Someday.
I'm watching it. So far, I don't have too much to say about it, but I have a good feeling later on.
I read
down
the
road.
first volume of the manga, and it's okay. It's
the
obviously
manga's
going
getting pretty exciting, but the show is it's slow, kind of like the original Naruto. It started off pretty slow, but
yeah, I remember that about
up.
the original Naruto, because that first season sticks out for me the most, was because they were heading to water,
the mist
or whatever, and it was 30 episodes of build up to the final boss. And I wasn't too familiar. I dabbled in anime, but I hadn't gotten real deep in it yet. And I remember watching it, going, one episode to the next on Netflix. I'm like, are they going to get here? And I was like, they're still trying to get to this this big enemy and fight him. I'm like, how many episodes are we on it? And it was 30 or something. I was like, okay.
So DBZ, it gets right into action, but it takes episodes to build up their power. While Naruto, it's more like their entire journey up to the point they have to get. So it still evens out.
Well, in DBZ, it's okay, things have to go sideways first in about 8 different ways before they figure it out.
Now, I'm not a big Naruto fan, but I remember when I was a kid, I'd seen the initial first few episodes when they're training, and they're all they're trying to run up trees and all that stuff. And I remember when I was a kid, I would go in my backyard and I would try to run up trees. I would run with my hands behind me and stuff like that because obviously it makes you faster.
No, of course. The ninja run is
aerodynamics.
Real. It is real. Oh, same with DBZ. I always tried to teleport like Goku.
Well,
never
worked.
worked.
Transmission.
I was
never
gonna say,
worked.
Then after watching Naruto, for me, actually, I was in at the end of high school, and I'll admit there were times it's man, I wish I could do the Kakashi lightning hand thing right now, because that would help me so much right now.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I guess that means we're on to me. So, okay, bear with me, guys. I got 3. I got two shows and a movie.
Sure.
First one, probably my favorite anime that I'm going to go with is Death Note.
Okay.
Because Death Note is the first anime show I ever watched, start to finish. It's the only one I've ever actually completed. For those of you who don't know, Death Note is Light Yagami, a really talented high schooler, finds this notebook that says Death Note on it, hence the name of the show. What the Death Note does is he can write the name of any person while picturing their face, and they will die in whatever way he can think of. And he starts to use it because he's like, oh, I can use this to change the world and solve all world problems, only to realize that he sort of dabbles a line between becoming the evil that he wants to stop and becoming the hero he thinks himself to be. Probably then for the next show, one of my favorite ones is currently going on, Tokyo Ghoul. I don't know if you
Okay.
guys have seen that one
No.
Yeah, super gory. I like it.
yet. One of the things about that, though, is this super gory. It's one of the ways, like, anime can talk about different topics in life, and it's Tokyo Ghoul is about a kid named Kaneki who, in his world, there's these man-eaters called ghouls who look like humans, but they obviously devour human flesh. He becomes infected by them, and he ends up becoming half ghoul, half human. And it's really about how he can he understands why the ghouls do what they do. Is for the most part, there's a lot of them who are just really trying to be part of society. They don't mean anyone any harm, but in the human society, since they're not the norm, they're hunted out and killed. So it's kind of like one of those things like, okay, fitting into society, social justice and everything. And it's like it can really touch on that aspect of it while dealing with man-eating monsters who rip everyone's throats out.
Nice. That's how it's done.
And then last one, movie is going to be Ghost in the Shell. It is
Classic.
Yeah.
honestly, this is what when I first saw Blade Runner, I had never seen Ghost in the Shell at this point, but I was seeing clips of it and I was like, okay, this is what Blade Runner's like. And I later learned that Blade Runner inspired Ghost in the Shell, and it is honestly one of my favorite anime movies of all time. It is just so well animated and it holds up really well, and it deals with, oh man, this is a hard one to explain without really like spoiling it. Basically, Major Kusanagi works for a special division of Japanese police who is dealing with this cyber terrorist that they're trying to hunt down, and it also deals with she's trying to really figure herself out because she has a completely cyborg body but a human soul, her ghost, and she tries to understand if her body is just built constantly, is she really even human, and she tries to figure out where she fits in herself, like who she wants to be.
Ghost in the Shell, that's written and directed by Scarlett Johansson, I heard, right?
Well, she's tagged into the American version, the live action one that was done.
And from what I heard, some people did like it from an American adaptation. Like, it wasn't as good as the original anime, but like you could tell that I haven't seen it, but I'm just going off reviews I read. You can tell they were trying. It wasn't like a Dragon Ball Evolution. Like they really did try to honor the source material.
You don't think they were trying in Dragon Ball Evolution? What gives you that idea?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Grandpa, I'm so happy to see you. Actual actor emotes in that movie.
Yeah. It's not good.
It's really bad.
No,
It's awful.
I mean, just like any genre,
cringeworthy.
there's good, bad, and ugly, but
That's the ugly.
I may or may not own Dragon Ball Evolution on Blu-ray.
He owns 10 copies of it.
we know this. Yeah, we just don't want to publicly say it.
Well,
But we're going to take a quick break before we get to Matt's picks, but you're listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition.
Hi, this is Mike C. from I Am Horror. You're listening to the ODPH, the most killer podcast on the planet.
Coming back for the third segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, talking Japanese anime with the release of Batman Ninja today, as we are taping on Tuesday. So, Matt, what is your favorite animes?
So I kind of got a top three going on here. I'm gonna go not least good, but and they all kind of have different genres. So like first on the list would be an anime called Parasite. So it's kind of like a horror anime type. Basically think like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
oh, okay.
So it's about a high school student. Honestly, I forget his name, but kind of like an alien creature comes down and goes through his window when he's sleeping and attaches to his arm. And he wakes up and he figures out. I think the creature's name is Migi, and he gets all these powers, and the parasite talks to him and everything. And throughout the whole thing, the parasite kind of becomes more of him, and it goes into like his daily life, like his routines change. He does his hair different and everything, but it's just a bloody anime, and eventually like other parasites invade other people, and he has to hunt them down, and they're coming after him, and it's just fantastic.
Kind of sounds like the symbiotes with Venom, like Eddie Brock when he gets the suits. Like he at first is in control, but slowly, bit by bit, Venom starts to take over.
Honestly, it's really similar. Usually when these parasites like take over, they end up turning the person evil, but for some reason this parasite's different, and it becomes like the main character's friend, and they create like a strong bond and everything. And basically, they have to, if one of them dies and the other one dies, so they have a reason to protect one another. And it's great. I'd say probably my second favorite, which is one I grew up on. Back when I was watching Dragon Ball Z, there was another anime that was on TV on Toonami called Yu Yu Hakusho.
Oh yeah.
One of my absolute favorites. I wanted to be that main character so bad, but it's about I think he's in 8th grade. He's like 14, but it's a kid. His name's Yusuke. And he's a delinquent, he always skips school, always causes trouble and everything. And one day he jumps in front of a kid that's about to get hit by a car, and he dies, and he meets this girl who says that she's the Grim Reaper, and basically gives him a second chance to live because all his life he's been so selfish, but he sacrificed himself for this kid. So the only stipulation with that is he's got to become a spirit detective, and he has to hunt down all these demons and everything like that, basically to stop them from invading the world and all that. So it's fantastic. There's a good tournament arc in there, like most good animes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And probably number one is an anime called One Piece. I didn't start reading it until a few years ago, but it's honestly the best decision I've ever made.
Didn't you binge through it at like a ridiculous pace? I remember.
Yeah, so when I started watching it, there were, I think, 600 episodes.
Like, I remember at one point you posting on Facebook or someplace where you're like, oh my gosh, there's how many episodes of this? How am I going to get through this, or something to that effect?
Yeah, Matt, who told you to watch this one?
A little guy named Mike Paffy.
Oh, that's
But I think I must have watched like maybe 10 episodes a day. I would just blow through them, 20 minutes. And it is kind of one of those animes with a lot of filler. But it's honestly, I've never been so attached to an anime like this before, like all the characters and everything. Basically, if you like pirates and kind of Dragon Ball Z style anime, but I guess maybe more of a story, then you'd like One Piece. Basically, it's a kid that eats a what is it, like a gummy fruit?
Yeah, it's the devil fruits.
So yeah,
he becomes a rubber man.
So he becomes a rubber man, and there's all these other devil fruits in the whole series, and everybody can have all these powers and everything. But his main goal basically is to be the next king of the pirates, and to do that, he's got to find the treasure of the last king of the pirates, and basically it's all the shenanigans from there, and amazing fight scenes, just characters that you get attached to.
And that anime, which was the reason I told you to watch it, Matt, because it's definitely one of my favorites as well. It's amazing. It's considered the most popular and well-known anime of all time, even more than DBZ. It sells more than anything. Like, it is Japan's national treasure of anime. It's amazing. Go watch it.
That's interesting, because, I mean, I had never heard about it, actually, until you guys started talking about it.
I hadn't heard about it either.
Really? Oh, man, One Piece, it's one of the top 3 shonen anime. Like, it's up there with Naruto. It's up there with
I've heard of it, but I hadn't
Bleach
watched it. Wasn't it on at least the dub version over here in stateside?
Yeah, it was on.
So I remember seeing commercials for it, but like I wasn't that much into pirates. I was like, not for me.
When I was growing up, I was mostly, like, if I wasn't on Adult Swim, I was on Tsunami, and I was watching Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, and Death Note, and all those shows. And I would just stay up so late watching them, and they're just so good. I can't even explain it.
Even if you don't like pirates, it's just a great anime overall.
It starts off a little slow, but
Yeah,
it
definitely.
picks up so fast.
I'd say once you get like maybe 15 episodes in or so, then you get pretty invested. Once more characters start coming along and they start to form a team and all that, it gets crazy.
And with what you were saying with shows like that, you just learn to like develop with these characters, and you just almost form like a relationship with these characters, even though they're just cartoons and stuff. You actually like feel for them. Like, I don't know about you, but I've gotten pretty emotional watching One Piece before. I've cried watching One Piece and
same
Naruto.
here.
It's just so emotional.
No shame.
Yeah, no shame at all.
I think when I started watching, there was about 600 episodes or so. But you can blow through them pretty quick.
Yeah, like you said,
you
20
get really
minutes an
invested.
episode.
Well, I guess for me, like I said, I've kind of grown up watching the old cartoons. So that's how I got into it. But I guess the first anime that I saw and I was like, holy, what am I watching? It was Akira.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, is just a story of, to describe it is kind of a little crazy.
I mean, I think, mind if I help you out? I
Jump
reviewed this
in.
one on my blog. Basically, the best way I can describe it is Kaneda, a leader of a local biker gang, has to go and rescue his one friend Tetsuo, who gets captured by the government after the government learns that Tetsuo has developed latent psychic powers. And the world of Akira takes place in a very dystopian 2019, which let's hope to God we do not end up in a year. And it's just a really gritty and violent anime, and it's like it was one of the ones that helped set the standard for anime in America, that showed like, okay, anime is not for children, just because there was a lot of stigma at the time that, oh, it's animated, it's for children. You do not show your child this movie until they're at least like 15, I'd say. It's like, it is violent beyond all belief, and they hold nothing back.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that we hope we never see the reality of that
That'd be
by
terrifying.
any means.
Unless I get the psychic powers, at which point I'll take those.
Yeah. But as you see, Akira is so complex that it's not just your normal good versus bad. I mean, there's so many layers to it. And it really kind of, I would say, encompasses the full circle of anime in a nutshell. I mean, there's so many different characters and their emotions, and just the artwork is fantastic. I mean, it just really, and the action too, I mean, it just has so much going on that I really think that if you talk to any, mainstream animation fan, they know what Akira is. They might not have a full detail, but they know what it is.
I was going to say, I would agree. It's like, it can appeal to a lot of people in the sense, like, everyone can interpret the characters in that movie differently.
I was gonna say there's not really honestly, neither guy, like neither person or nobody in the movie is good or bad. Honestly, like you can look at them either way.
It really, yeah.
I mean, the main character was like in a biker gang. He's probably done some crazy stuff. And his friend was in the gang too, and he
bullied him his whole life basically, and then he gets so much power and he gets so full of himself. He's like, nobody can stop me, so I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I was gonna say, and then even like the government leader there who captures Tetsuo, I've seen debates of like, okay, he's just a military general who wants power, and then in my opinion, I think he's actually a guy who's trying to do the right thing for his country.
Right.
But it's like, that's the beauty of the movie, is like, you can really take these characters however you want to do it, because like, I'm with you, Matt. Kaneda, as much as the main character, there are parts I'm like, man, I just want to punch you in your face.
And then there's the character Akira himself, who we hear about the entire movie and know nothing about him other than like, you don't mess with this kid.
I was going to say, I think you learn Akira's backstory, like, correct me if I'm wrong, like the last 10 minutes. The movie's wrapping up and they tell you who the guy is.
When I first saw Akira, I started watching it and I'm like, okay, which one's Akira? I had no clue that like it was a totally different thing, like way deep into the movie, that you finally learn who or what Akira is. I was like, I saw Kaneda on the cover and I was like, oh, well, this must
Akira,
be Akira right there. Look at him, he looks cool. He looks like an anime guy. But no, it completely shocked me. So
it's not anime, but shout out to Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One. If you're a fan of Akira, the Akira bike is in the movie, and it plays a big role in it.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows how Akira transcends just out of the anime format. And I mean, I don't want to say it's like the greatest anime of all time, but it's in discussion.
Oh, hands down, it's groundbreaking.
Yeah, I think for what is at the time.
Honestly, it made people take anime more seriously all across the world. I think like Brian said, it just like it showed that anime isn't just for kids.
It's not a cartoon.
It's definitely not a cartoon, and especially that movie.
And honestly, we've been talking a lot about the groundbreaking animation. To wrap it up, at least on my end, I would say if you want to know what we're talking about with this animation, just go on YouTube and look up opening biker scene Akira. It is phenomenal, and it holds up to this day. And it's honestly, while the movie might not be my favorite anime, that is probably one of my favorite scenes in any movie, period. It just is so well done, and it's gorgeous, and it holds up after, 30 years?
It's around there. I mean, it's kind of crazy just to think of how, lasting effect it is. So if you're new to anime, that is one we recommend, but obviously it's for a mature audience only. I would not recommend, if you are the younger demographic, to be watching it. But it holds up. It is definitely worth watching. I mean, for me, it is what I reference to a lot when I talk to people about anime. Because, I mean, there's been so much influence with the cartoons, and I know I reference that a lot, but that's how I got introduced. I mean, I remember actually when Sci-Fi used to play them Saturday morning, and used to have everything from Dominion Tank Police to Vampire Hunter D to Akira one morning, actually.
I haven't seen Vampire Hunter D, but I've heard Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust the movie is amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of those like, oh, what am I watching?
Yeah.
Because it's just that crazy. But for me, to close out this segment, the series that I reference so often with anime is, I mean, I think everybody in this room could probably say it in unison at once. Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop. It's I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Mike. No, jump in.
It's definitely like an anime that you just recommend to anyone, even if they don't watch or know anything about anime. Like, I would show this to my parents or my sisters who have made fun of me for watching anime my whole life. And I know they would enjoy it because it's just
I would agree. I'm very tempted to show it to my family because it's like my parents like Star Wars. It's like, okay, you like Star Wars, you like the sci-fi, so it's like you will like Cowboy Bebop. Honestly, the best way I can describe it is the anime version of Firefly, or probably what it may have inspired Firefly. I don't know. It's like there's just a lot to it. It's a space western. It's amazing.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody say they don't like Cowboy Bebop or talk negatively about it. I've never heard it, never seen it. Like not even online.
I feel like that's sacrilege.
No, it's just kind of crazy because the premise is just two bounty hunters and their misadventures throughout the galaxy.
And then they just pick up the rest of the crew
It
along
just
the way.
rolls from there. It goes in so many different directions, and yet there's so many underlying tones to it that when the ending hits, it is one of the best endings to a series you will see, period.
I just got goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, just everything from the music, which, I mean, it just goes from the jazz influence to the real folk blues. I mean, you can just go on and on about this, but the adventures of Jet and Spike and on the ship Bebop, it's just something that if you really want to get involved in anime, because, I mean, I caught it at a very young age, that I was like, this is my benchmark that I set. Like, my film is Akira. My show is Bebop.
Oh, yeah.
And my cartoon, well, I've already addressed that.
I mean, for me, after watching it, I seriously wanted to get a Welsh Corgi. I still do, actually. If you watch the show, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. And I watched the English dub, and I only saw the anime a few months ago. And the English dub, Spike Spiegel is voiced by the talented Steve Blum, and it's like, he's the only guy I can picture as Spike now. He's the only guy. It's like, okay, that's Spike Spiegel. That's Steve Blum.
I'll say Steve Blum is one of those guys that, like, you may not know the name, but you know the voice.
It's like you look up at his IMDb page, you're like, oh, he was him in this, and as well as in this and this and this. He's just in so much. He's a very talented voice actor.
And just for the show in general, just it's such a simple premise, but it's so complex. And I think it just really is a true reflection of just like a great anime show. Because on paper, it just looks simple. And then you're like, okay, well, what is this going to do? And how can it last, more than a couple episodes? And yet it goes. And the directions it goes in is just, far reaching from the silly to the serious.
I was going to say, that's another one. It has its fun moments. Like, there's just some episodes you're like, okay, this is just for pure fun.
Especially with Ed.
Oh, yeah.
The little boy, little girl, little thing.
Yeah,
Little Ed. Let's just call her Ed.
Yeah, you'll understand as you see the show. I mean, it's just one of those... It's just one of the little nice, parts to Cowboy Bebop that it just transcends, I guess, for anime. For me, like when I talk to fans about it.
It's more than, I think what you're trying to say is like, it's more than just space cowboys catching bounties. It's like, as the show goes on and you learn who these characters are, it's like, they all have the same job, but they have all gotten there for very different reasons.
And if you even want to look, and I'm going to stretch this as I close out the segment, look at the influence it has on Guardians of the Galaxy, the current edition. As you said with Firefly, there's so much influence from this that you can watch that and you can go, all right, I get it now. And it translates.
I mean, that's part of the reason I love the movies of Guardians is like it just deals with this ragtag team of misfits. And it's like they're not just, oh, we're bounty hunters. It's like they all have crap that they're dealing with in their lives. And it's brought them all together, and they realize that they need each other as much as they might not think they do.
Yeah, and
especially the soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
like the soundtrack to that show, like Samurai Champloo, it's just it fits the theme so perfectly well. Like
even just the opening theme,
Oh.
it's like every time every episode comes on, it's like
3, 2, 1,
let's jam. It's just like you just get so amped for it. And it's like it's one of those shows. I don't skip the intro. I just love listening to it.
Yeah, it's just so well done that you need to go check it out. We've given you enough recommendations of what we think is great. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to let you know what we're watching or reading now. You're listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition.
It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward, no steps back.
Hey, this is Vince the Common Man Seattle, a local MMA fighter, telling you to keep on listening to the ODPH, the 607's up-and-coming newest podcast.
We knew right where we'd be, floating on the airwaves, you see. It's a heartbreak, soul-shaped radio attack. Taking 4 steps forward and no steps back. We knew right where we'd be.
Coming back for another segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition. Now, we've talked to you about what our favorite anime and mangas are, but what are we currently watching or reading now? Let's start with Bry Guy.
Okay, so I got a manga I'm reading, and I got a show that, well, I'm not currently watching because I just finished it. Let's start with the show. Show I'm going to say Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Mm-hmm. It is one of those, it's another one that's like, it really puts the characters through different scenarios, and like, there's characters everyone can relate to on some level. One of my favorite moments from that show was early on, the main characters, the Elric brothers, who are on a quest to return their bodies to their former selves after they're destroyed in an accident. I don't want to spoil it for you. And they're young kids, and eventually one of the first episodes I liked was when it was a darker episode, and the kids realized that it's like the world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, which is something like a lot of people don't like today to think about. And when they're taken out of that element, it shows like how it shows how people have to change, and they did a great job with that show. Manga, I'm gonna say Berserk. I'm not gonna say it. I am reading it. Best way I can describe Berserk is it's a lone warrior going around killing demons, killing people. He's a mercenary. Best way I can describe his main character Guts is take Frank Castle, the Punisher, stick him in the medieval times, give him a big suit of black armor, a arm for a crossbow arm, and a huge honking slab of metal that he uses as a sword.
Where should I send my check?
What you were saying with Brotherhood there, that's another one of those animes where you could show that to anyone, and I feel like they would really enjoy it just for the story and just like the whole world itself. It's not super weird anime that a lot of people think about. It's like,
if you actually watch the anime, you'll actually see that it's got a lot of parallels. I don't know if anyone knows this. A lot of parallels to World War II.
Yeah, very German inspired, and also their uniforms. One thing, military uniforms, and then also just their names and the dub version, like the English voice acting, is really well done. I know a lot of people don't watch anime because they don't want to watch like subtitles, which
I'm one of those people. I
like the sub, but that's one of those shows where you could watch the dub version and it's done so well.
Yeah, the voice actors in that dub are great. Mm-hmm. Roy Mustang is probably my favorite character on that show.
So good.
One thing I'm watching right now is Digimon Try. Of course, I grew up watching the original Digimon when it was on TV over here in the States. It follows the events of Season 2. Now, for those who don't remember, Season 1 and Season 2 take place after one another. Season 3, the whole other place, whole other time, what have you. This takes place 3 years after the events of Season 2 and 6 years after the events of Season 1. And the animation style is very much in the style of the movie that came out in 2000. So it's very well done, very high class, or however you want to put it.
They just had the finale for that too, right?
Yep. So they were going through. So it's kind of like a nostalgia trip because I hadn't seen that original group from the Digimon series in a number of years. So it was kind of like a nostalgia trip. That I'm like, man, I kind of want to go rewatch that now. So that's one thing I've been watching lately.
I was gonna say about Digimon. Actually, the Digimon movie from 2000 is probably one of my favorite anime movies of all time. The soundtrack, like, you wouldn't think is amazing, but there's so many good bands on there. Like, like Less Than Jake, like that got me into ska and punk music. But it's a great movie.
Alrighty, so I've been watching a couple of animes actually. My Hero Academia, which is a superhero movie or a superhero show, excuse me. Which actually, I feel like this whole Batman Ninja thing was probably getting inspired by some of these shows that are coming out, because there's been at least 3 shows that are about superheroes in anime, which is kind of a new rising thing.
Oh, so you hear a lot. You hear a lot about stuff over here getting inspired by the Japanese style and some of the Japanese stuff. I feel like it works both ways though,
Right.
because Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Captain America and all those are universal. It's one of those things that, like, and I know I've said this before, you can go to any country in the world with a Superman t-shirt on and they will know what it is. I'm sure you can show, a photo of Christopher Reeve in like the middle of Italy or something, and they will know, oh, hey, it's Superman.
Right.
Hey, it's a Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really cool to see these two worlds like coming together, like these heroes that we make here, and then like the anime styles they have over in Japan. It's just really cool to see them. And My Hero so far, second and third season just came out, and so far it's amazing, absolutely amazing. I recommend it. It gives me a Naruto feel a little bit, so I'm very excited to see where it goes. Another one I'm watching, I've been rewatching One Punch Man and Attack on Titan because they have new seasons coming out this year, I believe.
I haven't seen One Punch Man, but I've seen Attack on Titan.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, One Punch Man is easily probably my favorite like animation style. Like they just take animation to a whole new level that is just groundbreaking, and that's also about superheroes, which is awesome.
I think One Punch Man is a good like segue, or kind of a middle ground. People that aren't sure if they're going to like anime, but maybe they like comics and they like superhero movies, because it's very similar to comic books.
And it's also really funny. Like if you just sit down and like the sense of humor of the main character is just great. And
I mean, when you see a walking crab monster, that the main character has to fight just because the crab monster has eaten so much crab that he has turned into a crab man. It's just hilarious.
It's so stupid and so well done, and it's great. Definitely recommend that one. Reading, I'm still reading One Piece because that's still ongoing, even though it's like 900 chapters deep, and it's still amazing. I haven't been reading too much manga. I think that's it. That's it right now. Oh, Baruto, which Naruto has ended, so it has now been passed on to his son Baruto, and that is going on.
Who's
so
on a quest to outdo his dad.
which is
What the
not
hell?
possible.
I just think it's cool. It's like Boruto. If you see Naruto, you know the relationship between Naruto and Sasuke, and now Sasuke's mentoring Naruto's
Right. It's really
son.
cool to see all their like positions kind of switch in this new generation. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've been watching lately. Matt?
Yeah, so bear with me here. One anime I've been watching recently, a friend recommended it from work. I've been watching a lot of like serious anime, but I was in the mood for something a lot funnier. So it's an anime called Haven't You Heard My Name is Sakamoto? Or Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto? Basically, like I said, bear with me. It's about a guy who it's like a typical slice of life anime where they're at high school, but it's about a guy named Sakamoto, and everything he does is just really cool and stylish. So whether he's solving a math problem or he's showering or whatever, everything he does is really cool. So or his walk home, where he's like always saving birds in the rain from like thunderstorms and stuff like that, like jumping in midair, and it's pretty ridiculous. But basically, there's all these jealous classmates that he has, and they keep trying to sabotage him and make him look, like an idiot. But they just end up making him look even more cool than he already is. And that's honestly what it's all about, and it's amazing. If you're in the mood for a funny anime, that's one of them.
I actually forgot a couple, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I've also been watching a Netflix original, which I originally was reading the manga, and then they made an animation on Netflix, and it's really well done. It's called Seven Deadly Sins. That's a great one.
I've
The second
seen that
season
one
just
on-
came out, or it came out maybe a couple months ago, and it's really awesome. And then another one is Persona 5, actually, which is an animation based off of a video game series.
Yeah. I've heard of
Shinigami
it.
Tensei. It's RPG style. It's a great game. Persona 5 came out last year, and without a doubt, it has become my favorite game ever made. Like, you are just watching an anime while playing a game at the same time, and the story is just so, like, you never know where it's going to go, and you could never possibly know where it goes. And it's just so well done. The music, it won Music of the Year for video games. It was nominated to be Game of the Year, but Breath of the Wild took it, obviously.
Yeah.
It took a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I actually, it was the one game that got me to stop playing Breath of the Wild. So
I didn't know they made an anime, but that's crazy.
yeah, so far it's kind of a letdown.
yeah.
I would just go play the game, but
I've only
still
I've
fun to
played.
watch.
I've played Persona 4.
Mhm.
I have like a PlayStation Vita, and I played like the remake of that. But I've heard nothing but good things about Persona 5.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It really is.
And what have I been watching? We're going to talk about that next segment because Batman Ninja is currently on deck. So we're going to talk a little bit about DC's newest animated hit. You're listening to the ODPH Entertainment Edition.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH Entertainment Edition, talking Japanese anime, especially tying into the newest release from DC Comics Animated Division, Batman Ninja. Now, we already talked about the panel that we went to see at New York Comic Con. Shout out to everybody there. But the day is finally here. It is released on Blu-ray and DVD. It's been out on digital. Now, I've been watching little bits here and there, but I'm going to be watching the whole movie when I get home from the podcast tonight. But I'm asking the panel, why is this movie so important, and what do you want to see from this? Starting with Bry Guy.
Well, we were sort of talking about this before the show. It comes down to it's like we have a mainstream American superhero going into the anime world. I mean, you got to think it's like Batman's been around for years, and now he's going over to Japan to be part of the anime style. And everything I've seen, it's like it's gonna bring it. It looks amazing, and it's gonna bring a new view of anime to modern American audiences. Because I think they're gonna want to see this movie because it's a Batman movie, and then realize, holy crap, this anime stuff's really neat. And then it'll expand to more people to get involved in watching anime.
Yeah, I think especially now, Matt, I know you've seen the Marvel movies that have been done in the anime style. So in comparison, where Marvel, they're using the source material from the comics for the shows, correct?
Kind of loosely based it off the comics, yeah, but they were okay, honestly. Like, I think DC might be doing a better job for once when it comes to movies. But yeah, the Marvel movies were okay.
I'll say I think that's the thing with these movies is I didn't watch all of the Marvel stuff, but I saw bits and pieces of them. Those were simply like you're having the characters from a Marvel story in, American locations, whereas this is taking Batman and putting him in the middle of feudal Japan. This isn't having Batman run around Gotham driving the Batmobile trying to stop Joker in a Japanese animation style. This is Batman's literally in feudal Japan.
Yeah, and I think that also plays into it that this is going to be such like with the Elseworlds graphic novels, which DC does. Maybe I'm dating myself with that. That when they take characters and put them outside the continuum, that this is going to be such just a unique thing. And what I want to see is just, obviously, they're going to keep the core essence of Batman. I know that there are multiple characters from the Bat family involved. Plus, the one that we saw at Comic-Con that stood out was Gorilla Grodd from Flash fame is in this.
One of the creators, I can't remember which one, but he said, "Yeah, Grodd's my favorite character. I wanted to put him in I want to put him in the show." And it's like, okay.
Yeah, because if I remember right, during the panel, they're like, oh, yeah, every villain is in this. And then they went and showed a trailer, and it's like, oh, there's Penguin. There's Mr. Freeze. There's Joker. Gorilla Grodd.
Everyone's the best mercenary ever to walk the earth is in this. Hashtag Deathstroke.
Yep, no, Deathstroke makes an appearance.
Nightwing
is
Yep.
in it.
Nice.
I believe.
I think if the only characters that won't be making an appearance in this movie are like C and D list characters.
So there's a bunch of characters. Like if they're doing that, I feel like they should just make a series instead of a movie.
They
and like
very well could.
And take their time with it, because the thing about movies are like they're gonna get rushed. That's just how it is.
I get the feeling, and I'm not saying this based off of anything I read on. This is just my gut feeling. My gut feeling would say if this does well enough financially, they will.
Because that would be amazing if you're involving that many characters. That can put you up to just make a really well done animated series with arcs of villains and just character development.
I was going to say, I think it shows that DC's invested. I think they know that the anime scene is a big market, and I think they're looking to kind of get more fans, more anime fans into comics and more comic fans into anime.
And Pad was saying this before the show. As they said at the panel, it's like they did this. Pretty much, Warner Brothers did this right in the sense they gave those Japanese studios like, okay, you guys know what anime is. You guys do this. We're gonna keep our hands off of it. You guys just do what you do.
Yeah,
best.
I'm pretty sure they just said make a Batman movie, and they took their hands off of it. They didn't say do this or do that, go this way or go that way. They just wrote them a check and go, here, make us a movie.
And then pretty much all they said is, okay, we're gonna make an English dub with this.
Yeah, which I think, especially because the creators they have for the project are very well known throughout the anime world.
Yeah, Takashi Okazaki, who is the I believe he's the creator. He did Afro Samurai.
Yep.
Which is a pretty well known anime.
I've never seen it, but I know what it is. It's like you said. It's
And the art style that at least the trailer had was really, really awesome. It's different. It's not like a typical anime. It actually reminds me of I don't know if you guys watch Rooster Teeth or anything, but they create this animated show called Ruby.
Yep.
And it looks like a video game.
Yep.
But it's still like an animated series, and it looks really well done. There's a couple of them like that actually. God Eater, which is a pretty cool show as well, and Berserk that was reanimated in a similar style. It's just very unique style, not too many animes do it, which is going to make it stand out, I feel.
It was almost like a 3D animation, kind of like I rewatched like the new Berserk, and it was interesting.
It's different. If it's done right, it can look really, really awesome.
I was gonna say a 3D style of anime. Netflix's Knights of Sidonia does a similar thing,
Yep.
especially with the mech suits.
That was just the first thing that I thought of when I saw like the animation for Batman Ninja was Berserk, the new rendition they did.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to DC is taking their time with this, and I think they really want to set a precedent that they have really allowed a studio to run wild with their character. I mean, we're not talking a B-lister by any means.
No.
This is Batman. I mean, you talk the Trinity of DC.
And it's really
He's one of them.
Yeah.
It's really speaking to the faith they had with the studio and the creators and the writers and the animators to take their baby. This is like if Walt Disney or Disney or whatever went to some other studio and goes, hey, make us a Mickey movie.
Right.
It's a lot of faith put in this studio.
Ninja Mickey.
All right.
I would totally watch that.
That might happen depending on the success of this movie. But I guess I would say it's going to ultimately go down as, does this movie really connect, and does this set a new benchmark for mainstream comic book characters to venture into the anime world? So I guess final thoughts from the panel about Batman Ninja, starting with Pat.
I'm very excited for this movie. To me, this is the most ambitious thing they've done DC animated wise since, I would argue, Mask of the Phantasm, where it's a completely original story. Not something that like I know they're redoing Death of Superman. Something that doesn't have source material. And it's also ambitious to me because other than Batman, Superman, Public Enemies, this is the only movie I can think of in recent history where they've done an animated movie where it's like a whole bunch of villains all at once. Because if for those who don't remember, Batman, Superman, Public Enemies, that's where Superman gets framed as trying to assassinate Lex Luthor, who's the president, and he sicks every hero and villain in the DC universe on the two of them. So this, to me, it's like in that same vein where it's like you're getting everyone from the Batman universe,
which is really awesome to see. I'm excited to see how they're actually going to fight in this, because it's got to be totally completely different, and I feel like they're going to do a really good job with the fight scenes, obviously, because that's like a lot of what anime is about.
I was gonna say, I think what I want at its core is at its core is probably I just want to see Batman in this alternate world, and it's like I really want to see how he interacts with the Japanese, the samurai, because he has a strict moral code, and the samurai also had their code, and it's like I really want to see what happens when he explains it to the people of Japan, and it's why he won't do certain things that he doesn't do.
and he's also getting taken completely out of his element, where he's used to running rooftop to rooftop, hiding in the shadows, hanging from stuff, using his devices to where buildings aren't all that high. Not going to be as many places to hide as he's used to. It's completely out of his element.
Right.
One other thing I would like to see is, I don't know if Damien's in this, but I would like to see Damien teach his
Lord.
father how to work a sword.
Oh, Lord.
That might happen.
Did they? What year is this supposed to take place? Is it feudal Japan?
Feudal Japan, yeah. They didn't give a year specific date, like a date, but feudal Japan.
Feudal Japan was like 1100 to like almost the end of end of 1800.
It's a long period,
which is really crazy to think about because that's like Japan's medieval era in a way, like in a Western reference there. And it just ended like a little over 100 years ago, which is crazy.
I don't know. I just like to see a good blend of anime and comic, I guess.
That's all you really need to say about it, because especially looking at anime, and we've talked about it all episode. We've talked about what we thought was great. I mean, dating back to when the cartoons were really taking off in the 80s with Voltron and Transformers, and going into the 90s where you had your Cowboy Bebops, you had even your Sailor Moons, you had different genres that were appealing to everybody, and then going into now with One Punch Man and the different genres that we've discussed. I mean, I could ramble on and on, but you know what we're saying with this. I mean, the genre is definitely something that has a strong fan base. So you mix that in with the DC universe and their reputation for their animated division, which is by far superior to Marvel's at this time.
Young Justice.
I don't even think you can compare it right now at this time.
I've said it on previous shows, or at least it's like I honestly like DC's cinematic universe, their animated one, more than their live action one.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's more well done and they take their time with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you have that, and then you're loaning an iconic character to creators that you know their reputation in one genre, but you don't know how they're going to adapt such an iconic figure to it, you want to see it succeed. From everything we've seen, from the trailers to the previews at New York Comic Con's panel last year, this does not look like it can fail. Now, I've seen some early reviews, and they have been 9.7s out of 10, near like 4.75s of 5s. You know, whatever you want to break it down, it's been near perfect.
I think it's 80% right now on Rotten Tomatoes, actually. So that's pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah, for just
for an animated movie.
For an animated movie, especially with, you know, the one that is going to really, I think, set a precedent for, you know, mainstream comic characters to cross over and try something different in the anime world. I think this is going to be the benchmark that when we're talking about, oh, have you seen Akira? In a few years, people are going to say, oh, have you seen Batman Ninja? And that's going to be the gateway to introduce fans to the anime world. We're excited to watch it. We hope you are too. So, for the Bry Guy Signal.
Later, guys.
For Padawan J.
Thank you.
For Mike Pathy, thank you for coming back on the show. Let us know what's going on with Rye Bread.
Rye Bread is rocking and rolling as always. We got a couple summer festivals, and we're playing all around town all the time, so come check it out.
Definitely, you can find their social media on the website, ochoduroparlayhour.com. For Matt Ocean, thank you for joining us on the show.
Hey, glad to be here finally.
And let us know, where can we find you on YouTube?
Yeah, so I got a YouTube channel that's growing pretty fast. So it's Retro Matt on YouTube. I've got 4,000 subscribers so far and about 1.5 million views. Basically, right now it's just videos on like how to, you know, get emulators on your phones and stuff like that, like play PS2 on your phone. But I like to do more retro game stuff and movie reviews and things like that. So yeah, search for me, Retro Matt on YouTube, and subscribe, and hopefully more to come soon.
Absolutely. You definitely want to check his page out. We're going to close out this week's show with the newest song from Rye Bread, Don't Got It. Is the clean version of what I'm going to say, but the version we have is the unedited version, so make sure to listen. Make sure to give them a follow on SoundCloud and their social media. I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you for listening to another edition of the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour Entertainment Edition. See you, Space Cowboy.
sucker. He didn't fall, no, he didn't fall for her tricks at all. Deep down inside, she was quite an ugly woman. For this he knew, yes, for he knew the truth. Oh, you think you got it, oh, you think you got it, but you don't got shit, no. Oh, you think you got it, oh, you think you got it, but you don't got shit, no. Oh, you think you got it, oh, you think you got it, but you don't got shit, no. Oh, you think you got it, oh, you think you got it, but you don't got shit, no. Here we go. She tried everything, her looks, her ass, her money. He gave no mind, but he gave no mind to her at all. Inside this killed her, she always got everything she wanted, except one thing, and that one thing was love. The man told her she had to change her devil ways. Thinking she was perfect, she didn't understand what he meant at all. Many years go by, subtly she didn't change. She died alone, she died without a